Welcome again to Success Talk. This is Dr. Herbert Harris bringing you stories of victory, stories of overcoming, stories of people facing things in their lives that, you know, often will take other people out, but how they were able to overcome the challenges, overcome the obstacles, and have their greatest victories. And today we have an incredible lady, an entrepreneur, realtor, mom, just a person who's all out doing things as a business person. I call it business person, not business, but a business person in the world. So, Tanya Debnam, thank you so much and welcome to Success Talk.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Wow. Now, you're in real estate. That's a hot area right now, isn't it?
Yes, but definitely the market's changing, but that's what real estate does. It goes up and it goes down and it goes all around. That's just part of what it is. So yes, it's been a beautiful market for so many reasons, and the
How,
interest rates are really low. Yeah.
how long have you been in real estate?
I started real estate about 10, 15 years ago.
Hmm.
Did banking before then, and that was pretty much right out of college. So I did that for a long period of time and decided to try something different. So that's when I got into real estate. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you love it, I can tell.
I love people, and that's my. I tell people I've worked with people ever since I've been working. I've worked with the public, and that's because I enjoy helping people achieve their
Mm,
goals. Yeah.
okay. Beautiful. Well, Tanya, when we do these interviews, we've had just, so many incredible stories. And I always love to get a sense of a person's background. Where'd you grow up, what type of family,
Okay.
and how did you get started on the path?
Okay. Well, I found out I didn't realize that I was in a unique situation. And so I grew up where my grandfather, he owned land and he had 11 children. And he gave all his children land to as they got married to build on. So I only knew growing up my neighbors as my aunts and uncles and my grandparents. So that made that alone as being very unique. I never lived with neighbors that were not family.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then I went to the University of Greensboro and North Carolina in Greensboro. And then I went to Atlanta for about 7 years and as I started my career after I graduated. And then I decided to come back home and I started my career in banking in Georgia. And then I finished it here in Raleigh, where I am right now. And
Now,
that's how it
now
ended up.
banking is an unusual area. What attracted you to banking, or was that a part of your education?
No, actually, what attracted me to banking, I wasn't really happy at what I was doing when I was in Atlanta. And I was like, okay, so I did some self reflection. So I was like, well, what do you want to do and what do you feel passionate about? And banking kept showing up. And so when it kept showing up, I decided to go and interview for a job in banking, and they hired me. And then that's when my career started from there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. I love to see people because that's an area that so often I think they need more people of color.
Mm-hmm.
We worked with a couple of the black banks in New York, and it was just amazing how still they had not yet gotten into the network of the you might say the national banking system. They were there, but they didn't seem to be plugged into the network. Mm.
Yes, yes. So it was a little different. And when I started, which was in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
late 80s, and there was not many of us,
Mm-hmm.
period, in the industry. Um,
And then being a woman also, I mean, you had like, as they say, two strikes, a
yes,
woman and a person of color. So, yeah,
yes.
that was interesting. Now, going into that arena, did you face any particular obstacles and how did you overcome them?
Well, the blessing about that is that we did have an organization, um, and it was for Black people in the banking industry. And so we would get together, have national conferences and local chapter conferences. And that made a big difference because you were able to connect with people in different parts of the country. You get together, and then you can make those phone calls when you ran into difficult situations that you could talk to someone that could understand your point of view and where you were coming from. And I really feel like that definitely made my job much easier and better.
Well, Tanya, I hear that so often, especially in the people of color, Black folks, well, any particular group,
Mm-hmm.
that was always the salvation. I was interviewed a young man who'd been in the stockbrokerage arena, and another who'd been in real estate in New York, for example. And each one of them, they had some type of connection to a group of like-minded, like people that gave them the ability to hang in there and get through it. Yeah.
Yes.
Even in the nursing area, as a matter of fact, one of the interviews was a young lady who she had gotten into nursing, from like a health perspective, but it turned out that everywhere she worked, they found that she had great management skills. And, I said, well, how did you survive? Because it seemed like every company she went to, there was a lot of resistance. And she was saying that there was a group, a network of medical professionals, people of color, who really, just as you were saying, shared and interacted and made them feel that they were not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So now, yeah, you have
I,
kids?
so I do. I
Uh-huh.
do. I have one daughter that's in college now. So
Hmm.
yes. Hmm.
Hmm. Now you were getting ready to say something.
Well, basically that I call those masterminds when you can
Hmm.
get together with a group of people of like mind, and that does make a big difference in any career. I feel like just being able to have those people that you can actually talk to does make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tanya, I don't know that I've done work with some of the historically Black colleges. I don't see the presence of people of color expanding widely in the banking area, really in many instances in the business arena, but particularly in the banking area. Is there anything that can be done, you think, to encourage more people of color going into banking?
Well, I think that we don't really see it as an opportunity, necessarily, and that's why we don't go in that field. And trust me, they're looking for them, and you don't know that they're looking for
Mhm.
you. And I think that those opportunities are definitely out there. They're very real. But how many people encourage their children to really get in banking? Because I've encouraged a lot of people and helped some people get into the banking industry
Mhm.
with my connections that I've had from my almost 20 years of banking, and they've enjoyed it because you can learn a whole lot by just being in the banking industry.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that at some point to really look at, I make notes of those things that can make a difference. And that's something that I think one of these organizations really needs to look at
Right.
how to make a make an impact. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
say. I,
Yeah.
I often find that it takes one person to really step up and sort of stimulate and make things happen. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
now, have you been that one person in some areas that you're working with where you stepped out on faith, where you just knew something had to get done?
Well, I feel like I'm really doing that a lot right now. I've done it all my life. I've got testimonies from people that they tell me how I impacted their life, and I was just being Tanya,
Mm-hmm.
and they let me know that I changed a lot of things in their lives by
Mm-hmm.
just educating them or just believing in them. That was the main thing. I was like, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people I've been a cheerleader all my life, middle school, high school, I cheered in college, and I am a cheerleader for life. And that's
Mm-hmm.
who I am. So I will always cheer for people, and just doing that to push them to say, you can do it, has made a lot of impact. I feel like in people's lives.
Now I like that, a cheerleader for life.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, when you're doing, for example, real estate, do you find that you have to do a lot of education? Like people may want to buy a house or buy a property and they really don't understand all the variables and all the things to be considered.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We just the National Association of Realtors just released this year in the last, 4 months or so, a report. And the
Mhm.
report was home ownership in America. So I round up the numbers. So if somebody Googles it, they'll see the numbers are exact because I round up. So home ownership in America, the number one race by home ownership, of course, are white Americans. White Americans have a home ownership rate of 73%. The next rate is Asian Americans. The next home ownership is 63%. The next are Spanish, and that race is at about 53%. And then you have the African American Black race. We're at 42%. And they have done this study for many years. Our race is the only race. And this is so frustrating for me and it's emotionally taxing because we are the only race when they started doing this in 2010, from 2010 to 2020, which is when the last update is, that home ownership went down. The only group, the home ownership went down. And so you asked the question, do I find that you know, it's a lot of education we have to do? Yes. And so one of my themes is your ignorance is their power.
Mm. Woo! Your ignorance is their power. Drop the mic on that one.
Yeah. So we got to be willing to learn. I mean, there's so many things they teach us in school. I think algebra, trigonometry, and all this stuff is great stuff. But why are they not teaching us about home ownership? That's something that is so important to our lives in America. And home ownership is in America, the 99% is their biggest part of their wealth. Home ownership brings more wealth to your net worth than anything else that most Americans have, period.
Now, this is really it's really distressing. When you look at the model, when I look back at my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, all of them, many of them, I don't think up to my grandmother had some education, but my great grandmother, they were all Indians. In other words, they were uneducated, but they always wanted a piece of land,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a major piece. Even in the Spalding family, when Ben Spalding got his freedom in 1799, he got land along with it. And over the years, the next 200 years, that was like a model for the family, one maintaining the family wealth, but also that model, just as you just said it, you came from that same model. It's like the dad had land, and each one of the kids, they gave him a piece of land, and that land really became collateral to help build their house, and that
Mm-hmm.
was a very natural transference of wealth. But that's not happening now.
Right. It's not.
Why do you think that is?
Like I said, the my theme is your ignorance is their power because we don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be taught that there's so many ways to do it. Now, I say the MO never changes as well because a friend of mine pointed out that you call it gentrification. So why are our neighborhoods always going through gentrification, right? Because you never heard them doing gentrification in Chinatown, right? You
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so so gentrification is always in the African American, the Black community, and the reason that I feel that that is so is because we don't take complete ownership of everything that's in our those communities. And I have been to Chinatown before, and when you go to Chinatown, they own everything. They own all the
Yes.
businesses, they own all the real estate, they own everything. So it's not so easy to come in and just take over
Yes.
a community.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking of, you know, well, the Raleigh area, Black Wall Street in Durham,
Mm-hmm.
Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. And I wonder if it seems that every time you had a development like a Black Wall Street in Durham, in Atlanta, down on
In Wilmington, North Carolina.
in
Yes.
Wilmington,
Right.
that every time the African American business community, when in Tulsa, when you look at that, I mean, they owned a city, really,
Right.
a whole
Exactly.
area. In Wilmington, we had a very educated, landed
Mhm.
black community.
Right.
The first black graduate of MIT came
Hmm.
from Wilmington, North Carolina, 1888.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's
Yes,
good. Okay.
1888, Robert R. Taylor,
Mhm.
and he became he majored in architecture. He became friends with Booker T. Washington, and he designed many of the buildings at Tuskegee.
Oh, okay.
Now I'll
That's
just throw a little fact in there.
yeah.
So that was in 1888 was when he went. In 1999, the only black chancellor of MIT was installed. And guess where he was from? Wilmington,
Wilmington,
North
North
Carolina.
Carolina.
Yeah,
Full circle.
full
Yes.
circle. And
Hmm.
he was chancellor for about 10 years.
Uh-huh.
So it's very interesting that that education piece to teach the property value,
Right.
and somehow I think that disconnect between the parents, the grandparents,
Hmm.
has kind of lost that.
Right.
But then when we superimpose stuff like the Tulsa race riot, the 1898 in Wilmington, um, uh, Atlanta, 1906, and if you really research it, you go down the line and you'll see that it seems that
Hmm.
every time black people got an economic foothold in land and in business,
Yes.
that the power structure, the white power structure,
Yes.
destroyed it.
Hmm.
So I'm
Hmm.
wondering now if that's kind of a learned behavior. There's an experiment they did with fleas in a jar,
Uh-huh.
and they had a covered mason jar,
Right.
and the fleas would jump up and they'd hit their heads. And after a period of time, you could take the top off and they couldn't jump out.
That's right. They wouldn't. Yeah.
They wouldn't. They
Yeah.
had conditioned their mind that this was as
Exactly.
high as you can go. So
Exactly.
that's probably a part of it too, you know.
Yes. Well, my friends tease me because they know I'm passionate about a lot of things, and I'm passionate about our people learning the value of real estate, how to not just get it but maintain it and keep it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also said that write a book called The MO Never Changes.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to understand the MO first.
Yes.
And like you just said, was the MO. The
Yes.
MO was we created the Black Wall Street, we created these wealth opportunities, and then the power structure comes in and tears it down. So if you know that's going to happen, if you create another power structure that is another Black Wall Street or whatever, and you know they're going to come after you,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the mastermind comes in to me. So that is
Mm-hmm.
where I believe in young people. I work with a lot of young people because I so believe in them
Mm-hmm.
and that next generation because we got to, you know. And then you get those masterminds together, so you know they're going to come after you if you create another Black Wall Street. So what are you prepared? How are you prepared to protect yourself when the power structure comes after you? When you know
Mm.
the MO never changes.
Wow. Yeah, that's wow. That's a scary thought,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And why is it necessary? Why, like why is that the game plan? It just I guess that's a part of that bigger picture that America still has not come to terms with racism, with
Right.
slavery, with that whole mindset that has really been a foundation for this country from the very beginning.
That's right.
Uh,
Well, you're a spiritual person like I am, and we know that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred or transformed.
yes.
So, until that energy that established America has been transformed, it will always be here.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
And so that's part of the mastermind. How do you become a transformer so that you could transform that negative energy that the colonizers brought here
Yes.
into something that is that's better for the world?
Hmm. Wow. You know, I tell you, Tanya, we could go on for hours and hours.
Yes.
It's just so rewarding to have a person, a lady like you who's very conscious of it and who's been out there in it. You know, it's not
Hmm.
you're not talking from like uh, education. You're talking from experience. You've gotten the education and you've been in the marketplace on the battlefield, and to really see that. So I really salute you for that.
Thank
Mm-mm-mm.
you. Thank you.
Now, I often ask people, now, are you familiar with the 12 Universal Laws of Success, our
Of
book?
course. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Hmm.
now, now, one of the things that we tried to do in the book was to help prepare people's minds for that type of, expansion, to see beyond where you are, to have a vision.
Right.
And any thoughts on, how you encountered the 12 Universal Laws of Success and how you've been able to use it? And is there any particular chapter that you like more than any others?
Yes, actually, there is.
Mhm,
I would probably say chapter one. I mean, the first law that you have,
mhm,
and that was a law of thought,
mhm,
and everything. Because as a woman of color in America, growing up, you didn't see any examples of you in a great position, leading, being that. And so I know that I was not alone with low self esteem. So I had to deal with not feeling worthy in so many ways because there was nobody telling me I was worthy. There was anything good, about who I was. And you go down the totem pole, the black woman still is at the bottom, in my opinion.
mhm,
And there was even more so, I think, as I was a young woman growing up. So the first law, the law of thought,
mhm,
was something that touched my soul.
mhm. Well, Earl Nightingale said that, we become what we think about most of the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, I'm sure as a child, your mom probably was like my mother, made sure you read books, made sure, kept you on the straight and narrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 But she believed. She said, "You should be seen and not heard."
Mm,
Old school. She's like,
yes.
"Okay, we got people coming through. You go to church, they can see you, but they should never hear you." And that stuck with me.
Yes.
And now that I'm a mature woman, I will be silent no more.
Hmm.
Hashtag silent no more.
No more. Silent no more. Beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess my mom did the same thing. My parents, and when I was a kid, I was unstoppable. My nickname was Mouth Almighty. I tell you,
Tongue everlasting.
that's it. That's it. And then I was an only child. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, do you have brothers and sisters?
Oh man, yes. There were nine of us.
Woo.
I am number seven of nine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
see, being an only child, there was nobody else to compete with, and
Yeah.
so I just yakety yak all the time.
I understand.
Now, I love to ask, as you've been in banking as a business person in real estate, is there any one particular obstacle that you really had to overcome? How did you overcome it? And then what do you think is your greatest victory in life?
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I was a single mom, so I have only one child, but that was probably one of my biggest obstacles in life has been being a single mother.
Hmm.
Single mother and a business owner is the hardest job. I was like, I chose the hardest route there could be on the planet of proceeding with my life is doing both of those at the same time.
Hmm.
Um, and then, going back to what you really said, my obstacles that I had to overcome Tanya. I was the biggest obstacle I feel like I have been in my life, getting out of my own way, believing in myself. And I would say that when I really reflected on my life and did self love, when I decided Tanya is a beautiful person. She's done great things, and I'm being okay because I love that. Like I told you, I was a cheerleader for everybody but Tanya.
Mm,
I
okay.
would cheer everybody on but Tanya. And then using your book and the things that you've got in there about the laws of success, it is a lot about self-love, self-reflection. And when I did that, I feel like that was the biggest obstacle for me in my life to overcome.
Wow. Now you know, Tanya. It's funny when you said that. Can you think of a lady who was an executive, as a matter of fact?
Mhm.
She became a CEO of a major corporation, and someone was interviewing her, and they asked her, said, you know, when I look back, you are a mom and you had 5 kids and a husband and all this. How did you pivot to get into the business to become a CEO of a corporation? And she said, 15 years ago, she said, my husband was leaving for work and I asked him for $10. And he asked me, what do you need $10 for? He said, I got 5 kids. Okay.
Yes.
That I'm taking care of every
Right.
day. And
Mm-hmm.
and at that time she was what you call it, a stay-at-home mom.
Um,
And when he asked her that, that infuriated her. She went back to school because evidently she dropped out of college when they got married. She went back to school, got her degree, got an MBA, and she went all the way up to become a CEO of a major corporation. And so when you were sharing that that loving Tanya, was there any one event that you can pinpoint where you said, this is the one that I draw that line in the sand? This is the one. This is it.
well, and I would say that actually COVID has given me more time to do self reflection than I've ever had because I was so busy doing and not reflecting on what I was doing, why I was doing it, and things like that. So I would say that the self reflection, nothing other than COVID, really has helped me stay still long enough, in place long enough to do this self reflection and realizing I was loving everybody but Tanya.
Mm, wow. That now you know what everything has a good side. Isn't that something?
That's
Yeah,
right. That's
yeah.
right. Mm-hmm. It really does. Yeah.
Somebody should really talk to people about COVID because it had say COVID has a bad rep because it's done some terrible things to people and to the country. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it also had a good side in that it made a lot of people stop in that spiritual space of be still and know.
Right.
Like know who you are, know what
Mm-hmm.
you're about, know why you are who you are.
Right.
And I think you were just saying that was a part of your benefits.
That's right. It really did. So yeah, because you just go, especially like I said, as a single mom and everything, you just go, go, go. You wake up, you go, 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 and you have very little time. And then of course I have an aging mom, that you're taking care of as well, and your child is just so much responsibility.
So
And
you're so you're a caregiver also.
that's right. That's
Mm.
right.
So now, what do you think is your greatest victory? Now that you've arrived at a certain point, what is your greatest victory to date?
Well, probably I said, learning to love Tanya was one, but also I have my daughter is the most. I told her, I mean, I would love this young woman whether she was mine or not, and I made many sacrifices so that she could be a great, contribution to the world, and I feel like she is, and she's just a beautiful, spirit, and I hope I had a lot to do with that, for her becoming that beautiful person.
That is so good. As a parent, sometimes that's a heck of an accomplishment.
It is.
Mhm.
It is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, Tanya, we've had I think a great time together. Any thoughts that you would like to share? For number one, for a young lady coming into the business arena, is
Mhm.
there any particular advice, any thought you'd like to share with them as a business person, an entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah. So I would definitely say that my first business, I didn't have a business plan, and I said I would never do a business again without a business plan. And that's like one of your laws, really. That you just creating that vision, and that's what to me a business plan is the law of vision. And so definitely do that. And in that vision, create a team.
Mm,
The team is the different people that you can rely on for things that are not your expertise in everything. Because every business, you get in business for a reason, and normally it's for your strengths. So you hire your weaknesses, or you build relationships with your weaknesses, and everything. So that's the advice I would give to anybody looking at doing the business is doing the business plan, having relationships with those that are your weaknesses because you do a business for your strengths. Yeah.
that's powerful. Thank you so much.
You're
Now,
welcome.
as a single parent, now it's funny. I think that single parent. I was a single parent myself. That's rare. A bachelor father for about 5 years, and the one thing I learned was I didn't know anything about
Hmm.
parenting.
Yes.
You know, I had been a I had been a father, but I didn't know anything about being a parent.
Right.
I think often as a man we sort of pass that off
Hmm.
to the wife, to the lady, and like you
Yes.
handle it. Like hang in there, good luck.
That's
But
right.
where the buck stops with you, that was a challenge. So, what advice would you give to a single mom who's facing some of the things that you've shared that can give them that strength to keep rolling?
Yeah. Well, listen to your children, okay? Um, and spend that time with your child, and I think that's very very important. And I think it's also good to have a spiritual background, something that they connect to. I know how I met you was through our spirituality, or the church that we attended. And I will say, one of the things, as I call myself, a transformer. As I said, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed or transferred. So I call myself a transformer because I'm not afraid of prejudiced people, because my job is to transform them into something greater and
Mhm.
show them that there are, what they believe is a lie. And so when I decided on trying to find something to teach my child, I wanted the church to be something that was not segregated. So I found that background and that connection worked very, very well for us.
Wow, beautiful. Well, that's a
Mm-hmm.
reflection of the world, because 11 a.m. on Sunday morning is probably the most segregated hour in the country.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I didn't want to be a part of that.
Yes.
So I it was very important that I didn't contribute to that. So I looked for a church that was integrated, that everybody is welcome. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think I like that. Because if you participate, you perpetuate.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I
Wow.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, Tanya, I tell you, I have just enjoyed these moments with you today,
Thank
and
you.
your insight, and it's amazing. We've known one another for a few years, but you really shared another side. I think a very real side that can inspire some people today, because a lot of those things that that people say, well, this is a handicap, this is a barrier, this that you've been able to overcome it and go from survival to living to thrival. And
Yes.
so, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I do have some philosophies that I share with my daughter.
Please,
And
yes,
I would like to share, with a lot of people, because, you know, as part of COVID did is that before you can solve a problem, you must admit you have a problem.
right.
And if you've heard something about you by multiple people, it's time for you to do some self-reflection.
Mm,
You know, and sometimes we don't do that. We listen to it, but we don't take and say, well, am I doing this? And what can I do to change this? and everything. So before you can solve a problem, you must admit you have a problem, and don't present a problem unless you thought about the problem enough that you thought about a solution for the problem.
Mm.
So I learned that when I first started in banking. I had a lady that was my mentor, and she said, "Hey, before you come and complain about something, think about the problem and don't just bring a complaint without bringing some kind of solution for it as well."
Yeah.
Hmm.
That, that's a Reverend Ikeism,
Oh no, I
Yeah.
said okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
where she got it from.
I worked for Reverend Ike as part of the head of the Science of Living Institute. And that was one of the things he said. He said, if you're on the payroll, don't bring me a problem without a solution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
Yeah.
at one time, there was a leak in the church, and he had actually, there was like $1 million in gold leaf covering the ceiling. That it was a theater that had that dome up in the top. It was on those. It was like this theater was built around the same time as the theater at Radio City Music Hall was built.
Okay. Hmm.
And so he had gold leaf up there. And so when the roof leaks, then that means there's gold, $1 million worth of gold leaf dripping down. And so when you come to tell him, but don't come and say, Reverend, the roof is leaking.
Uh-huh.
Come and say, Reverend, the roof is leaking. I've engaged 3 contractors. I have 4 estimates right here. My recommendation is this, and I think we need to move on it right now.
Yeah, see that works, and that
Yeah.
worked my whole life. I told my daughter the same thing. If don't come to me with a complaint without thinking about the complaint enough that you've got a solution that we can work through it, together. But yes, that is a great philosophy. I call my philosophies for life.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, it helps them grow through it.
Yes.
That so many times we try to protect our children from situations, but often it's the very situations that help them to grow.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, I love your philosophy. Tanya, thank you so very, very much. I have enjoyed this interview. I think that a lot of people are going to hear your words and feel blessed, and especially your philosophy.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I hope so because I love people. I really do, and I want to help any of those that want help and guidance. Whatever wisdom I can share, I'm willing to share because, as Les Brown said, in the graveyard is where you find all the inventions that never were happened, or information or wisdom that was never shared, or anything like that. And I refuse to go to the graveyard with the knowledge I've gotten from my banking career, my real estate career. I want to share everything I got to anybody that's willing to listen and receive it.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Tanya.
Yeah.
We have enjoyed your words of
Thank
wisdom
you.
on Success Talk. And to our listeners today, pay attention because this is a very unique lady who has shared some powerful, unique experiences that we can all learn from and benefit. So, once again, you can be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and have whatever you want to have, always knowing that the best is yet to come. And
That's
so it
it.
is.
Yes, it is.